He was supposed to save USC football. He was supposed to bring the Trojans back to national relevancy and keep the prestigious program alive. After years of coaching nonsense, Clay Helton provided stability to USC, but many were waiting for him to take that next step to prove he was an elite coach and that he could restore this once proud program. Well, flash forward a few years, and he's been fired. It was 2 games into the 2021 college football season, and athletic director Mike Bond finally had enough and fired him after the Stanford loss. In today's video, I want to talk about the rise of Clay Helton, go through his entire journey, his whole tenure at USC, and we're going to determine what went wrong for him and why he ended up failing there. But right before we get into it, nearly 80% of you guys are not subscribed for the upcoming college football season, and you're not going to want to miss out on all the content I have planned, so be sure to subscribe, hit that like button, turn on post notifications, and now let's get started and talk about the tragic downfall of Clay Helton. In order to understand the tragic downfall of Clay Helton, we need to first go back in time and see how he rose through the coaching ranks. He grew up in a football family, as his father, Kim, was a coach for the Florida Gators at the time. The Helton family later lived in Miami, Tampa Bay, and the Houston area. They'd also moved to Texas, where he'd eventually become a high school star in the area. He played quarterback and decided to commit to Auburn, where he was there for a short while before he transferred to Houston because his dad actually became the head coach there. He didn't play a whole lot though. At Houston, he went 47 of 87 for 420 yards, 1 touchdown, and 4 picks, and he played in a total of 16 games for the Cougars. Instead of using his math degree, he went straight into coaching at Duke, where he was a GA and later promoted to the running backs coach. Helton would then join his father at Houston to be the running backs coach, and he would be there until 1999, which would be his dad's final year as the Cougars head coach. The next step for Clay was Memphis, where he most notably coached D'Angelo Williams, who was a first-round pick and a star running back. In 2010, Helton would arrive in Southern California for the first time, as he was the quarterback's coach for Lane Kiffin. He remained there for quite a while, until 2013 when he was promoted to the offensive coordinator. 2013 was a weird year, as Steve Sarkisian was fired, and Ed Orgeron was promoted to the head coach. Despite Orgeron having a good year, he was fired, and Helton got his chance to be a coach in the bowl game. He helped them beat Fresno State that year, but Sark was back as the head coach. Going forward to 2015, Steve Sarkisian took a leave of absence, and eventually Helton would get another chance and was named the interim head coach for the second time. On November 30th, USC removed the interim tag and formally named him the 23rd head coach in school history. Helton's first 2 games were losses, as they were defeated by Stanford in the Pac-12 championship game and Wisconsin in the Holiday Bowl. After a coaching search that included Hugh Jackson and Jack Del Rio, but he was named the permanent head coach, and Pete Carroll was actually super hyped for it and backed it up. It was going to be a new era for the USC Trojans, and Helton was a big deal now. Going into 2016, the Trojans had a battle at quarterback between former 5-star recruit Max Brown and young star Sam Darnold, but thankfully they had some firepower at other spots. Ronald Jones was the running back, and Juju Smith-Schuster was the star wide receiver, and the offense was going to be explosive. T. Martin was the offensive coordinator at the time, and they had a big first game against Alabama. Max Brown was the starter, and he did not play that well, as Jalen Hurts and the Crimson Tide destroyed the number 20 Trojans in Week 1. They lost to Utah and Stanford in 2 of the next 3 weeks, and it was a 1-3 start for the Trojans, and things were not looking good for them. Then Sam Darnold took over and led the Trojans to 8 straight wins, with victories over a ranked Colorado team, a ranked Washington team, plus Notre Dame and Oregon. There was a lot of hype for Helton in this team, and because of that, they were ranked number 9 and were selected to play in the Rose Bowl. Penn State and Saquon Barkley came to play, and this was one of the greatest games of the century. The Trojans won 52-49 off a game-winning field goal, and they went from 1-3 to 10-3. The 2017 Trojans class was headlined by running back Stephen Carr and wide receiver Joseph Lewis. The class was ranked number 4 in the country, and Helton was infusing more talent into the program. Led by the Sam Darnold Heisman train, the Trojans began the year ranked number 4, with Ronald Jones and Deontay Burnett back as offensive stars. They had a huge win over a good Stanford team in Week 2, and survived in overtime against Texas. They were 4-0 before a loss on the road to Washington State, and they almost blew it to Utah as well. They got blown out on the road against Notre Dame, and their playoff hopes were now done. They didn't give up though, as they won 4 straight games to end the year, which included a win over number 22 Arizona, and they had a 10-2 record. They rematched and beat Stanford in the Pac-12 championship game, and were placed in the Cotton Bowl against Ohio State. They lost 24-7 at the hands of the Buckeyes, and ended the year on a low. Headlined by JT Daniels and Amon-Ra St. Brown, Helton had the 4th best class in 2018, and there was a lot of hype for the team moving forwards. JT Daniels had reclassified from 2019 to 2018, and he had a ton of talented weapons around him. Guys such as Amon-Ra St. Brown, Michael Pittman, and Tyler Vaughns were there to throw the ball to, and it was going to be a fun offense. They had a running back by committee to replace Ronald Jones, and the year did not go as planned. They began the year ranked number 15, but they quickly got beat by Texas and Stanford, and they were behind the 8 ball. They did reel off 3 straight victories to get back to 4-2, but then they collapsed. Outside of a win over Oregon State, they lost 5 of their last 6 games and didn't make a bowl game. To be fair, 4 of those losses were one-score games, but 5-7 was unacceptable for USC and the amount of talent they had. Many in the coaching world believed that Helton would be fired, but the players loved him, and how do you fire a guy who won the Pac-12 championship in the Rose Bowl just 1 year prior? And that's why he was the coach going into 2019. Helton did sense panic though, as he made a change at offensive coordinator and went out and got Graham Harrell. Mike Jinks also came in to coach running backs, and the staff was looking a little bit better. Helton landed the 20th ranked class in 2019, and Brew McCoy should have been in that, and they bounced back. JT Daniels was supposed to have a breakout sophomore year, but then things took an odd turn. In the very first game, Daniels would suffer an injury, and all of a sudden, a 3-star backup freshman recruit would have to take over. His name was Kedon Slovis, and he actually saved Helton's job that year. Pittman, St. Brown, and Tyler Vaughns were all pretty much 1,000-yard wide receivers, and the offense was good. They beat a ranked Stanford team, where they then entered the polls, but then blew it to BYU following weekend. They also lost to both Notre Dame and Washington, but they won 5 of their last 6 games to finish with an 8-4 regular season record. From there, they were selected to play in the Holiday Bowl against Iowa, where they lost. After going 8-5, USC fans were ready to fire him, but he stuck around again, mainly because of the potential of Kedon Slovis. It was a messed up 2020 year, but in terms of their record, USC did well. Led by Slovis plus Vaughn, St. Brown, and a newly emerged weapon in Drake London, the Trojans got off to a weird start. They had a new defensive coordinator in Todd Orlando, but that wasn't enough to stop Arizona State from scoring 27 points. Thankfully, USC scored 28, so they won. The very next game, they'd go out and beat Arizona by 4, and that team ended up going winless, and later in the year they beat UCLA by 5, and the team just wasn't as good as their record showed. They were 5-0 going into the Pac-12 championship game, but they missed out on playing Colorado because of the game being canceled. Once they got to the title game, they lost to a very inconsistent Oregon team, and their slim playoff chances had now died. They did not go to a bowl game last year, and it was a weird year for USC to say the least. Helton was retained going into 2021, and like always, there was hype, but how would it turn out? Well, they had Slovis back and plenty of talented players, but it didn't start out how Helton or USC fans had wanted. Besides a win over San Jose State in Week 1, the number 14 ranked Trojans lost to a bad Stanford team at home, and this was the nail in the coffin for Helton. He was the first coach let go in 2021 so far, and it was long overdue. Helton was a stand-up guy, a great human being, and did a lot for the community, but his coaching ability just wasn't there. He had this to say, quote, "Dear Trojan family, on behalf of my family, I want to express my sincere appreciation for the opportunity of a lifetime to serve you as the head football coach at USC. As you compete for a championship, no one will be cheering louder than the Helton family." There was more to that quote, but those were the 2 most important key moments. He is a great guy, players loved him, and many took to social media to express that. Their athletic director Mike Bond stuck with him for a while, but he knew it was time to go in a new direction. The firing 2 games in was an acknowledgement of what most people thought for years, and that was the fact that Helton was never going to restore USC as a consistent national power. So what happened and what went wrong? Well, here are some theories. He would not have gotten the job to begin with if it weren't for the Steve Sarkisian nonsense, but because Helton was an adult and provided good leadership, and he got a chance to have a job that his resume would have never gotten him otherwise. He had a year where they went 5-7 in a bad Pac-12 year, and USC had the most talent of any team in the conference. That should have been a fireable offense, but their athletic director was not ruthless enough to fire a coach a year after he had won the conference. He went 46-24 in his time at the helm, which is a 65% winning percentage. That does rank 9th in all-time program history, but 5th amongst the 7 coaches who have coached at least as many games. His 46 wins rank 6th all-time, but second to last among those coaches who matched his number of games coached. More importantly, USC went 9-12 against ranked opponents, and 3 of those 9 came during 1 year. He also had some difficulty coaching against rivals, as he went 1-3 against Notre Dame and 3-3 against Stanford. Outside of the Rose Bowl, he lost a good amount of bowl games, and the main reason why he failed was because he never matched the expectations that college football has for USC. Aside from 2016, he never finished ranked among the same or higher than the team was in the preseason, and USC is a ginormous brand, and he just could not keep him there. They weren't fighting for national titles, and despite him loading up with talent and having opportunities to get there, he could never get over the hump, couldn't beat ranked teams, and could not get the job done. That'll get a coach fired, and that's what went wrong for Clay Helton. But what do you guys think? Why did Clay Helton get fired? Who will be the next coach at USC? Is USC a dead blue blood? And what coach or topic should I take a look at next? Be sure to let me know down in the comment section. Hit that like button if you want to support today's video. Subscribe if you're new, and check out all my other videos on the end screen. I hope to see you guys again soon, but until next time, peace.